everyone. Welcome to Dayton Christian Church. You know, if you're here this morning, I think it's safe to say God has started to work in your heart. And no matter what you're feeling, He's not done with you yet. And He's not going to give up on you until He's finished and successfully completed that work. So let's stand and praise Him this morning, shall we?
Righteousness, He humbled Himself, carried the cross. Love so amazing, love so amazing. Jesus Messiah. Messiah, name above all names, blessed Redeemer, Emmanuel. maker of heaven and earth. I lift my eyes to the mountains. From where does my help come? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth.
There's a grace when the heart is under fire. Another way when the walls are closing in. When I look at the space between where I used to be and this reckoning, I know I will never be alone. There was another in the fire, standing next to me. There was another in the waters, holding back the seas. Should I ever need reminding how I've been set free, there is a cross that bears the burden where another died for me. There is another in the fire. All my dead left for dead beneath the waters. I'm no longer a slave to my sin anymore. And should I fall in the space between what remains of me and this reckoning, either way I won't bow to the things of this world. I know I will never be alone. There is another in the fire, standing next to me. There is another in the waters, holding back the seas. Should I ever need reminding what power set me free, there is a grave that holds nobody, and now the power lives in me. There is another in the fire. Oh, there is another in the fire. Oh, I can see the light in the darkness as the darkness bows to him. I can hear the roar in the heavens as his face between where sin. I can feel the ground shake beneath us as the prison walls cave in. Nothing stands between us. Nothing stands between us. There is no other name but the name that is Jesus. He who was and still is and will be through it all. So come what may in the space between all the things unseen and this reckoning, yeah, I know I will never be alone. There'll be another in the fire, standing next to me. There'll be another in the waters, holding back the seas. Should I ever need reminding how good you've been to me, joy come every battle, 'cause I know that's where you'll be. I'll count the joy come every battle, 'cause I know that's where you'll be. I'll count the joy come every battle, 'cause I know that's where you'll be.
You may be seated.
Got to tell you, I'm not at my best today. I'm tired. If I pass out on the platform literally before you, don't call 911. I'm just like taking a nap. I'm sleeping because I was up all night. And it was the worst possible way to be up all night. I actually don't mind when I'm like up all night to like pulling the long haul, like the overnighter. I remember doing that when Zoe was like an infant. I can kind of like get my mind into the right mindset for that. And as long as I can sleep all of Monday, it all works out. But I've come to realize as a parent, the worst type of sleep is when they wake you up like every hour on the hour or every 2 hours. And so I want to kind of share what my night was like last night, because I know all of you want to know this. It starts with like spending some time with my sister and brother-in-law down in Albany. We had a great time watching the games. It's Saturday, so it's pizza night in America. And Zoe did something new. She tried garlic for the first time. I don't know if she's had garlic before, but not like this. This pizza place we were at, when they say garlic knots, like it's like 10% knot and 90% garlic, folks. And she did not like it. But that garlic got on her sweatshirt, it got in her mouth, it got all over the place. And then as we drive home, she fell asleep. And, genius here was like, this is great, I'll just put her in bed. We don't need to change her PJs. We don't need to do anything like that. She'll be good to go. Did not remember that she had garlic all over herself. So because, Joey gets to snuggle with mom all night, Zoe's decided that she gets to snuggle with dad all night. And when Zoe snuggles with me, it's a hug me as close as two humans possibly can, put her face right into my face, and breathe on me till she falls asleep. And I got to tell you, having someone breathe garlic into your face when you're tired is not a lot of fun at midnight. And when she woke me up every 2 hours screaming and crying because she had night terrors, probably from the garlic, and then started infusing garlic at me, not a great night to be Pastor Josh. And so if I pass out on the stage, the good thing is I'm covered if vampires show up, but I'm pretty tired this morning. And it's got me thinking about how possible it really is to love someone when they really are annoying you in every single way imaginable. And I mean really, really love them. And maybe that's how Jesus must have felt for the Apostle Peter. Because above every other disciple, above every other apostle, above every other friend, close friend of Jesus, there is no one who gets it more right and also simultaneously wrong than the Apostle Peter. This is the guy who has such greatest hits as, oh, where could we go? You have the words of eternal life. That's a pretty good thing to say to the Son of God. You are the Christ, the Son of the living God. This is the one who has so much faith that when there are waves tossing around the boat and they're in the boat and they see Jesus miraculously walking on water, it's Peter who gets out of the boat and begins to walk on water towards Jesus. Because if you do want to walk on water, you have to get out on the boat. But this is also the same disciple who immediately sinks because he starts doing what I would do. He looks around at the waves and the gray skies and the rolling thunder, and he thinks, oh no, I'm in trouble. And he begins to sink and he needs to be rescued. This is the one that's constantly in the scrum with the other disciples, questioning which one is the greatest. This is the one who literally tells Jesus that Jesus will not go to the cross, that Jesus will not do what he's supposed to do. No way. And Jesus actually has to say to him, get behind me, Satan. It's a bad day for you when Jesus is calling you the devil's name, first name. That's a bad day for you. This is the one. This is the disciple who goes down in the history of the church with shame for denying Jesus 3 times when he is facing this mockery of a trial. If we read the Gospel of Luke, Luke tells us that one of those times he literally does it eye to eye, face to face with Jesus. That's cold. That's cold. Now, Judas betrayed Jesus. He only did it once. Peter denied Jesus 3 times. That's rough. That's rough. And yet, Jesus never gave up on Peter. Not once. Not once did Peter ever reach that one last nerve. Not once did Jesus ever say to Peter, that's it, you're done. I've got to go on to someone new. You don't get it. Not once. He never gave up on him. And I kind of, I understood that, like biblically reading the story. But now that I've had kids, I have to admit, like, they do things that really annoy the heck out of me. And yet there's always that love that's there. How amazing that when God sees us, he could view us as his children. No doubt that is the reason, one of the reasons why God has that in his plan. No doubt that is the reason why God identifies with us that way. And no doubt why we have this incredible, touching story in John 21 to remind us the extent at which God will never give up on us, even when we really have every reason to deserve that. And then in verse 15, we have this really interesting conversation between Peter and Jesus. It says, when they had finished breakfast, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of Jonah, do you love me more than these? He said to him, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. He said, feed my lambs. He said to him a second time, Simon, son of Jonah, do you love me? He said to him, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. He said to him, tend my sheep. He, being Jesus, said to him a third time, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Peter was grieved because he said to him the third time, do you love me? And he said to him, Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you. And Jesus said to him, feed my sheep. Truly, truly, I say to you, when you were young, you used to dress yourself and walk wherever you wanted. But when you are old, you will stretch out your hands and another will dress you and carry you where you do not want to go. He said this to show by what kind of death he was to glorify God. And after saying this, he said to him, follow me. Many see this moment between Peter and Jesus as the so-called reinstatement of Peter into the ministry. Many have noticed that it is 3 times that Jesus asks Peter the question, do you love me? Kind of mirroring the 3 times that Peter denied Jesus. I think that all checks the boxes. I think those are great sermons. So I'll probably preach sermons like that someday here. I'm kind of hung up on this one part of the conversation, though. And that's Jesus' question. Do you love me? Do you love me? And when Peter affirms it, Jesus gives him something to do. It's not metaphorical. It's not high spirituality. Jesus is asking Peter to do something real with his life. And that is take care of Jesus' sheep, tend his sheep, take care of his lambs. Jesus, the great shepherd, is entrusting this person that none of us would hire, given his resume, lots of great potential, just keeps making mistakes. He is handing him, in many ways, the reins to leadership within the church. And all of it on the basis of love. Love truly is the most consequential thing, emotion, attribute, experience of our lives. And Jesus confirms this on that beach that day. One of all the questions that Jesus could ask Peter. He could have said, are you going to get serious about ministry now? Have you learned from your mistakes? Have you learned your lesson? Are you ever going to let that happen again? He could have said those things. He would have been within his right to say those things. No, Jesus asked 3 times, do you love me? So indeed, the Apostle Paul is right to the Corinthian church and the Roman church and every church that he wrote to and every believer that he wrote to. Love is the thing. Maybe the Beatles are onto something. Love is all we need. We just have to figure out what kind of love. Because if we're talking about sexual love, that's really powerful and that's awesome, but that doesn't last forever because we don't last forever. And yes, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but as I age, I realize that more and more. And family love can be compromised. It can be some of the most powerful love that we feel. It can also be one of the most devastating things when someone lets us down. And that love between friends, that love that we might have had for a college roommate or a high school sweetheart or that person that was just consequential in our lives is really incredible. Those memories last forever, but we are not destined to live in the same community, same town, and so those relationships come and go. And we can go on and on and on about the kinds of loves that we experience, but what is this love that Jesus is talking about? So much so that it's important enough to mention 3 times. What is this love? What is this love? And Peter really does feel grieved to the heart to think that Jesus is actually questioning his love, even after everything they've been through. Well, the good news is we know we don't have to opine. We don't have to parse the Greek. I don't have to stand up here and say a bunch of foreign words that were around on parchment 2,000 years ago. We have a definitive example of the kind of love that Jesus is talking about. It's the love of, will you put someone above yourself even to the point of death? Do you love me enough to do that for the church, for the people of God, for my creation? And we know that Jesus is talking about that because he references how Peter is going to die. And that is some tough stuff. I'm thankful that God has never seen fit to have a conversation with me like that, because I don't want to know. But that's the responsibility that Peter is taking upon himself. And we'll talk about that in a second. But it's not that big of an ask coming from Jesus, because what did Jesus just do? He just died for the whole world's sins. So in the chorus of the song, I've been there and I know what you're going through, Jesus wrote the song first. Jesus has demonstrated the love. This is powerful love. And what amazes me about Jesus asking the question is he is basically saying to Peter, the same kind of love that I demonstrated for you, the same kind of love that is at the heart of this miracle that I just performed, that confirms my forgiveness of you, the same kind of love is possible through you. Are you hearing this, church? Are you hearing this, Dayton Christian Church? We have, through our relationship with God, the ability to tap into the strongest thing in existence. And that is the very love that God has for us. It is the basis upon which we have that greatest commandment. Love the Lord with all your heart, soul, mind, and soul. Basically every fiber of everything in your being. And then also love your neighbor as yourself. Jesus goes the extra mile and says, love others as I have loved you. This isn't just flowery speech. God wouldn't say this if he wasn't going to make us capable of doing it. He doesn't give this order to Peter unless he has full faith and confidence that Peter can rise to the occasion. And boy, does he ever. Boy, does he ever. He does so on Pentecost when he preaches a sermon that literally kickstarts the church all over the known world. He does so when he answers the call on a rooftop to go preach to a man in his household, a man named Cornelius, and thus bringing the gospel to the have-nots, to the Gentiles, which is, I think everybody in this room. So I'm glad that he did that. Peter lived this love, and it was at the very motivation, it was at the very foundation of everything that made him who he was from this moment forward. And what we see in Peter in Acts and what we see in Peter in his letters is a very changed man. Not just because he was forgiven by God and he was changed by that grace, but because from that moment on, he lived that life of love that Jesus commissioned him to on this beach in John 21. That is the love that Paul is talking about in Galatians 5. That is the love of God that we can't be separated from, that Paul is talking about in Romans 8. That is the love that Paul defines in 1 Corinthians 13. And that is the love that we encounter right here in John 21 and everywhere else in the New Testament. It is that love. And it is that love that must define. It must. It's not an option. This is a commandment. We don't have many of them. In fact, right now, we don't even have 10 anymore. Because if we follow those 2 in the New Testament, we follow all of the law. That's what Jesus teaches and says. But this isn't for our consideration. This is what Jesus expects us to do and how to live. And oh, by the way, in order to do that, it's going to really be inconvenient at times. And that's where we go back to what Jesus is talking about with Peter's death, with his very own life. There will come a moment, Peter, when in living out this principle of love, you will have to lay down your life. Now, thankfully for most people in this room, even those watching online at home, that's not your story. That's not what God expects of you. Although we do know there are believers across the world who, for the sake of the love of the gospel, they have been willing to, and in fact died for their faith. They are the real persecuted ones. They are the ones who have put everything on the line for their faith. That's not necessarily us. But I do promise you this, and this can either be really, really bad news, or this could be the greatest news you ever hear in your life. But in order to live a life, to unleash a life of love, it's going to be really inconvenient. I mean, really inconvenient. It's going to force you to change. It's going to force you to see the world differently. It's going to force you to see other people differently. Because the people that are nasty to you and mean to you and make fun of you and annoy the heck out of you and don't get it, those are the same people that you have to love. When Jesus says, feed my sheep, he's not just talking about all the ones that get it, that are in the church, that are perfect. He's talking about all those whom he would leave in the fold to go find the one. That's the love that Jesus is talking about here. My favorite thing about this story is that Jesus goes to them. They don't have a moment of clarity where they're, oh, we got to run and tell Jesus we're ready to join the team. That's not how it works. Nope. They're failures. They failed. They're not doing well. And Jesus shows up and goes to them. That's the kind of loving God that we're working with. A God that comes to us. And all the people around us who need that love, God is showing up to them. It's just now he's using you. That is why the first fruit is love. And that is why it will be the most powerful one that always remains. And it is in your grasp. It is in your toolbox. It's the greatest arrow in your quiver. Unleash it, Heavenly Father.
How could I hope to find a place in your heart? Why would you want to be with me? I'm lost in the wonder of your endless love, flowing down from the cross to me. There must be an answer that I have yet to find, a way to make me more like you. The more I try, the more I fail. Don't think it's something I can do. How could I hope to find a place in your heart? Why would you want to be with me? I'm lost in the wonder of your endless love, flowing down from the cross to me. I don't want to be alone, I long to be with you. I know that I can't make it home my own. I looked high and low, deep and wide, there is nothing I could find. You gave everything to make a way for me. Teach me of your ways, oh God, and set my sights on high. Open my eyes to your truth, to love your word, to live your ways, and walk the ancient paths with you. How could I hope to find a place in your heart? Why would you want to be with me? I'm lost in the wonder of your endless love, flowing down from the cross. How could I hope to find a place in your heart? Why would you want to be with me? I'm lost in the wonder of your endless love, flowing down from the cross to me.
Hope you feel the love that's in the room. Great message. And then endless amount of love that God has from the cross to me. That's an amazing thing. I've always thought, Peter is one of my favorites because he messed up so many times and God still loved him. And all the times I mess up and I think I'm going to do it right and then I mess up and God still loves me and it's all there for me. As we take communion today, it just comes down to God so loved the world. God so loved me and you that he gave his only begotten son, that whoever believes shall have eternal life. That's what we have to believe, and that's what the table's about, and that's what communion is all about. That's how simple it is. He said, Peter, tend the flock. Peter, tend the flock, tend the land, keep the sheep. Our job is to leave here. We leave the 99 to go find the one. And there's one out there that each and every one of us can find. You might do that with your money. You might do that with yourself. We need to be thinking of how we're going to bring people in. Or that's what tithing, that's what giving your money it does, is help to build the church up, help to keep us going so we can reach out and care for the flock. Thank you for being here today.
paper we are cursed. Unshaken, I will stand upon the promises of God. Unbroken, they will remain until the end of time. I'm shaken by His love. There's nothing that can separate. Salvation has come to all who call upon His name. I look around the world, I see hope and change are just a game. Though many lofty words are spoken, sin remains the same. I look around the world, I see the evil schemes of men will fail. Hope in God, He does not change. His purpose will prevail.